Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kendra and today I'm going to be doing my June book buzz. This is a series where I go through all of the new releases that I'm interested in, and I'll go through all of these books in different categories, and then I'll just give a short synopsis or a tagline from each of the books. And first I'm going to go through all of the romances that I'm interested in. The first one that I want to talk about is Make Me Hate You by Candy Steiner. I am absolutely so excited for this book. I love Candy Steiner so much. She is one of my favorite romance authors. This book, it says, if he kisses me right now, I'll drown. Every sip of air is shallow and burning, because in the arms of my best friend's brother, I'm the closest I've ever been to sin. His eyes flick to my lips, and I remember the first time I tasted him 7 years ago before I left this town and vowed never to return. His hands grip my waist, and I remember the pain when he rejected me, when my entire world crashed down at his command. His jaw clenches and my senses come alive with one stinging reminder. I'm not his to kiss, and he's not mine. I tried to stay away from Tyler Wagner, putting an entire country between us. But when his sister's wedding brings us back to the same town, to the same house, I can't avoid him no matter how hard I try. I cannot wait to read this one, so I'm super excited to read this one when it comes out. The next one that I want to talk about is The Player Next Door by K.A. Tucker. The synopsis on this one says, Scarlet Reed has returned to Polish Falls, convinced that 12 years away is long enough to shed her humiliating childhood identity as a town's harlot's daughter. With a teaching job secured and an adorable fixer-upper to call home, things in her life are finally looking up. That is, until she finds out that Shane Beckett lives next door. Shane Beckett, the handsome and charismatic high school star quarterback who smashed her heart. So I'm really excited to read this one. If this one is anything like The Simple Wild, I cannot wait. So I'm excited for this one too. The next one is The Boyfriend Project by Farrah Roshan, and this one says it's about 3 young women who become friends when the live tweeting of a disastrous date leads them to discover they've all been duped by the same man. So this one sounds amazing and I can't wait to read this one. The next one is Head Over Heels by Hannah Orenstein, and the synopsis on this one says the past 7 years have been hard on Avery after training her entire life to make the Olympic gymnastics team. A disastrous performance ended her athletic career for good. Her best friend and teammate Jasmine went on to become an Olympic champion, then committed the ultimate betrayal by marrying their emotionally abusive coach Dimitri. I'm really excited to read this one because I actually love gymnastics. I love watching college gymnastics, and especially when the Olympics are on, so I'm really excited to read this one. The next one is Faked by Carla Sorensen, and the synopsis on this one says, every action has a consequence and Claire Ward knows it, and yet even knowing that her decision to swap places with her identical sister Lila for a night could be disastrous, she still does it. Why? Because it will give her an evening with the man she's been crushing on for years, Lila's best friend, Finn. This one sounds like it's going to be so fun, and I'm really excited to read it. The next one is Match Cut by Julia Olivia, and the synopsis on this one says, when I moved back to my hometown of Fox Hill, I knew a few things for certain. First, I needed to overcome the world's worst case of writer's block. My first documentary film might have won some big awards, but that doesn't seem it a career. Second, this move must remain temporary. After 10 years away, I don't plan on staying. Third, and most importantly, I cannot, under any circumstances, fall in love with my brother's best friend, Keaton. So I love a brother's best friend romance, so I'm really excited to read this one. The next one is Hard to Handle by Kay Bromberg, and this one says, at first, the request seemed simple. Sign a new athlete to the agency. Then I found out the new athlete was none other than the most wanted man in hockey today, Hunter Maddox. Gifted, sexy, at the top of his game, and the only man who has ever broken my heart. If signing him will help save our family business, I'll swallow my pride and do what's asked. This one just sounds really good, and I really do like a hockey romance. This next one is The Change Up by Megan Quinn, and the synopsis on this one says, breaking news. The bad boy of baseball, Maddox Page, is totally and utterly whipped. Okay, that might not be the headlines in the newspaper this morning, but it's the reality of my current situation. It all started a month ago when I received a call from my best friend Kensley. She got a new job in Chicago and needed a place to stay. I've known the girl since I was 5. What harm would it be to have her stay at my place for a while? Ha, total disaster. Now instead of going out every night with my teammates, I'm couch surfing and sketching endless photos of my best friend. But that's the least of my concerns. The disaster, you ask? I'm rapidly falling head over heels in love with my best friend, my roommate, and my #1 fan. And she has no idea. So this one just sounds absolutely amazing. This is a baseball romance and the cover is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm really excited to read this one. The next one is The Girl in the Love Song by Emma Scott. This is the first book in the Lost Boys series. And the synopsis on this one says, Miller is a survivor after a harrowing childhood of poverty. He will do anything it takes to find security for himself and his mom. He's putting all his hopes and dreams in the fragile frame of his guitar and the beauty he creates with his strings and his soulful voice, until Violet. No one expects to meet the love of their life at age 13, but the spunky rich girl steals Miller's heart and refuses to give it back. This one just sounds like it's going to be so good, and I think it's going to be emotional too, so I'm excited to read this one. The next one is Kiss to Conquer by Anna B. Doe. This is the first book in the Blairwood University series, and the tagline on this one says, the past tore them apart, the present brings them together. And this is a enemies to lovers football romance, and I love enemies to lovers, so I'm really excited to pick this one up. The next one is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbard, and this is the second book in the Brown Sisters series, and the tagline on this one says, it's about a young woman who agrees to fake date her friend after a video of him rescuing her from their office building goes viral. So I'm really excited to read this one. I still need to read Chloe Brown, but this one definitely sounds really good. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Cheesy on the Eyes by Tegan Hunter. This is the 5th book in a Slice series, and the synopsis on this one says, dating is hard, dating in a small town, impossible. Leave it to my little brother to come back home announcing he knocked up his fiance and the wedding has been moved to next month. When he tries to set me up with one of his football buddies, I tell him I'll be bringing my own +1. Only problem, I'm hopelessly single. Enter Sullivan Scott, aka my hero. We strike a deal. He'll pretend to be my boyfriend and I'll use my mechanic skills to help him fix his boat. That's it. No funny business and definitely no feelings involved. Obviously there's going to be feelings involved, and I'm really excited to read this one. I read the first book in the series, absolutely loved it, so I really need to get a move on so I can read this one. Next, I'm going to go through all of the adult contemporary books. The first one is 28 Summers by Ellen Hildebrand, and the tagline on this one says, their secret love affair has lasted for decades, but this could be the summer that changes everything. I read Summer of '69 last month, absolutely loved it, so I'm really excited to read her new book that comes out this month. The next book is A Burning by Megha Jamdar. I know I butchered that, I'm sorry. But this one is about 3 unforgettable characters who seek to rise to the middle class, to political power, to fame in the movies, and find their lives entangled in the wake of a catastrophic in contemporary India. This one just sounds really, really intriguing, and I keep seeing it around Instagram, so I'm really excited to pick this one up. The next one is The Lies That Bind by Emily Giffin, and this is about a young woman falls hard for an impossibly perfect man before he disappears without a trace. I heard this one is being compared to one of her earlier books, which was Something Borrowed, and I loved that book when it came out, so I'm really excited to read this one. The next one is If You Must Know by Jamie Beck, and this one says, life turns upside down for 2 sisters. This is an emotional novel about secrets and differences can break or bind a family. So this one sounds like it's going to be really emotional, and I'm excited to pick it up. The next one is The Second Home by Christina Clancy, and this one is set on Cape Cod that centers on a beloved family home in a summer that changed the lives of 3 siblings forever. So this just sounds like it's going to be a perfect summer read, and I'm excited to pick this one up. The next one is Always the Last to Know by Kristen Higgins, and the synopsis on this one says, the Frosts are a typical American family. Barb and John, married almost 50 years, are testy and bored with each other. Who could blame them after all this time? At least they have their daughters, Barb's favorite, the perfect, brilliant Juliet, and John's darling, the free-spirited Sadie. The girls themselves can be more different, but at least they get along more or less. It was fine, it was enough, until the day John had a stroke and their house of cards came tumbling down. I've read a couple books by Kristen Higgins and I really have liked them, so I'm excited to check out her new book. Now I'm going to go through all of the historical fiction that I'm interested in. The first one is The Vanishing Half by Brent Bennett, and this is about twin sisters inseparable as children who ultimately choose to live in two different worlds, one black and one white. I have read this one and I thought this was a really solid read, and I recommend picking this one up. The next one is Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, and this is about an isolated mansion. It's a chilling, charismatic aristocrat and a brave socialite drawn to expose their secrets. And this one is set in 1950s Mexico, and this one just sounds like it's going to be really good, and I'm really excited to pick this one up. The next one is The Lincoln Sisters by Jennifer Chiaverini, and this is about Mary Todd Lincoln, which was the wife of Abraham Lincoln, and this is a compelling story of love, loss, and sisterhood, rich with history and suspense. I've never read anything that took place around Abraham Lincoln and his wife, so I'm definitely interested in picking this one up. The next one is The Daughters of Erie-Town by Connie Schultz, and this is about hidden desires and long-held secrets. The sacrifices people make to realize their dreams is the heart of this powerful first novel about a working class family in Ohio. So I'm definitely interested in this one because it is set in Ohio and that's where I live, and I just like reading books that is set around where I live, so I'm definitely excited to pick this one up. The next one is We Came Here to Shine, and this one is by Susie Orman Schnall, and this is an iconic 1939 New York World's Fair. Two ambitious young women, a down-on-her-luck actress and an aspiring journalist, form an unlikely friendship as they navigate a world of possibility and find out what they are truly made of during a glorious summer of spectacle and potential. This one, the cover just really drew me in, and it definitely does sound intriguing, so I'm excited to check this one out. The next one is The Black Swan of Paris by Karen Robards, and this is a world at war, a beautifully young star, and a mission no one expected, and this one is set in Paris in 1944. I have seen a couple reviews of this one and they were really great, so I'm really excited to check this one out. The next one is If I Were You by Lynn Austin, and this is about sisterhood and self-discovery set against the backdrop of World War II in the 1950s. I love the time period around World War II, so I'm definitely excited to check this one out. The next one I'll talk about is Red Sky Over Hawaii by Sarah Ackerman, and this is about the attack of Pearl Harbor. It changes everything for Lena Hitchcock, arriving home on the Big Island too late to reconcile with her estranged father. She is left alone to untangle the clues of his legacy, which lead to a secret property tucked away in the remote rainforest. When the government starts taking away her neighbors as suspected synthesizers, Lena shelters two young German girls, a Japanese fisherman and his son. As tensions escalate, they are forced into hiding, only to discover the hideaway house is not only what they expected. This one just sounds really good, and I've also seen this one on Instagram recently, and I actually just bought it from Target, so I'm definitely excited to read this one when it comes in. The next one is The Last Train to Key West by Chanel Clayton, and this is set in 1935 around three women who are forever changed with one of the most powerful hurricanes in history that barrels toward the Florida Keys. This one just sounds so good, and I like Chanel Clayton, so I'm definitely excited to pick this one up. Next, I'm going to go through all the thrillers that I'm interested in that come out this month. The first one is The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and this one is set on a remote island off the Irish coast at a wedding, and this is one guest list no one would want to be on. I've already read this one. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it, so I highly recommend you check this one out. The next one is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and this one, the synopsis says, "What was it like living in that house?" This is about a haunted house, and I am so excited to read this one. Riley Sager is one of my favorite thriller authors, so I cannot wait to read this one. The next one is The Lost Flight by Julie Clark, And this one is, the tagline says, 2 women, 2 flights, 1 last chance to disappear. I've also heard this one is really good, so I'm really excited to read this one as well. The next one that I want to talk about is The Dilemma by B.A. Paris, and this one says it's about Livia's 40th birthday, and tonight she's having a party she's been planning for a long time. The only person missing will be her daughter, Marnie. So I'm super excited to read this one. I have read all of B.A. Paris's books and I have liked all of them, and I'm really excited to see what her new novel is about. The next one that I want to talk about is The Girl from Widow Hills by Megan Miranda, and the synopsis on this one says, everyone knows the story of the girl from Widow Hills. Arden Maynor was just a child when she was swept away while sleepwalking during a terrifying rainstorm and went missing for days. This one sounds amazing and I can't wait to read it. The next one is You Can't Catch Me by Catherine McKenzie, and the tagline on this one says, when the game is deception, nothing is as it seems. And I know this one is about a cult, so I'm really excited to read this one. The next book that I'm going to talk about is The Half-Sister by Sadie Jones, and this is a domestic suspense novel about a family who is forever changed when a stranger arrives at their door. I'm really excited to read this one. I read her other book last summer, really enjoyed it, so I'm excited to pick this one up. The next one that I want to talk about is The House Guest by Mark Edwards, and the tagline on this one says, a perfect summer, a perfect stranger, a perfect nightmare. That sounds really great and I can't wait to read it. The next one that I want to talk about is The Swap by Robin Harding, and this is about the toxic relationship between 2 couples after a night of sexual shenanigans and the manipulative teenager with an explosive secret at the center of it all. The premise of this one sounds really interesting. I'm really excited to check this one out. In the past I haven't really liked Robin Harding's books, so I'm really hopeful that this one will be good. The next one to talk about is 3 Perfect Liars by Heidi Perks, and this is about 3 ambitious women whose lives are turned upside down in the aftermath of a horrifying fire, which destroys a successful advertising agency and threatens to expose a tangled web of lies. I'm really excited to check this one out, so hopefully I can get to it pretty soon. The next one to talk about is Stranger in the Lake by Kimberly Bell, and the synopsis on this one says, when Charlotte married the wealthy widower Paul, it caused a ripple of gossip in their small lakeside town. They have a charmed life together despite the cruel whispers about her humble past and his first marriage. But everything starts to unravel when she discovers a young woman's body floating in the same exact spot where Paul's first wife tragically drowned. This one just sounds like it's going to be really great, and I recently read Dear Wife, absolutely loved it, so I'm definitely excited to check this one out. And lastly, I'm going to go through all of the YA fantasy that I'm interested in. The first one is A Song of Wrath and Ruin, and this one is by Roseanne A. Brown. This is a first in a fantasy duology inspired by West African folklore in which a grieving crown princess and a desperate refugee finds themselves in a collision course to murder each other despite their growing attraction. This one just sounds like it's going to be really great, and I'm excited to pick this one up. The next one I want to talk about is The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant, and this is about a young thief finds herself going head-to-head with leaders of Paris's criminal underground in the wake of the French Revolution. I believe this one is also a historical fiction, so I really like historical fiction and fantasy, so when you mesh them together, I'm definitely excited to read that one. The next one I want to talk about is Sisters of Sword and Song by Rebecca Ross, and this is a standalone fantasy about the unbreakable bond between sisters. I'm really excited that this one is a standalone, so I'm really excited to pick this one up. The next one I'll talk about is A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow, and this is about Tavia. She is already at odds with the world, forced to keep her siren identity under wraps in a society that wants to keep her kind under lock and key. Never mind, she's stuck in Portland, Oregon, a city which only a handful of black folk and even fewer of those with magical powers. And this one sounds like it's going to be so good. I really love books about sirens, so I'm definitely interested in picking this one up. The next one to talk about is Kinder Poison by Natalie May, and this one is following a teenage girl. She's chosen to the human sacrifice in a deadly game between 3 heirs who will do anything for the crown. This one sounds really good and the cover drew me in, so I'm excited to check this one out. And the last book that I want to talk about is Forest of Souls by Laura M. Lee, and this one is about a girl comes from nothing, but she's intent on becoming something. After years of training to become the queen's next royal spy, her plans are derailed when shamans attack and kill her best friend. I actually just saw a review on Instagram about this book and it was a really great review, so I'm really excited to pick this one up. So those are all the books that I'm interested in that come out this month. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in any of these books or if you've already read them and what you thought about them. And until then, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!